I hope you're doing great. Today, we are going to see how you can upgrade to .NET 7 in case you have a .NET Core application. In this case, we are going to migrate from .NET 6 to .NET 7. However, before we continue, please remember to visit fairplaytube.pdacostarica.com, select the Buy Me a Coffee icon, and a donation of your preference. This will help us keep the videos and products free for you. You can also fund the projects by becoming a GitHub sponsor, so you can click the About arrow in here to expand the About section, and in GitHub sponsors you will be able to fund the projects by selecting a tier or doing a one-time sponsorship, right? And when you select a monthly tier, there are multiple tiers where you will get access to a specific source code repositories like Fairplay Condos, which is the condominiums administrator code base, Fairplay Dating, which is a source code for how to create a dating application using um, Blazor and MAUI, uh, the one for Fairplay Tube, and the one for the auto-generated system, which is the basis for all of the projects that are using automatically generated code. Okay, now let's go to this page. There are two ways to update to .NET 7. One of the ways is actually using this .NET Upgrade Assistant. The .NET Upgrade Assistant is a command line tool that will allow you, or in most cases, facilitate the upgrading of your system. It will analyze your project and let you know things that you have to do in order to update the project. And then you will also be able to use the same command line tool to upgrade the project. How do you use it? Basically, you go to this page, right? You download, of course, the .NET SDK if you don't have it, and then you install the Upgrade Assistant tool by running this command in a command line prompt. And then you run this command, of course, replacing this section with your solution or project file. And then once everything is ready, you will see some messages in the console, and you can open the generated file with either a text editor or this VS extension. Then when you are sure you want to upgrade, you can use the same command line tool. Of course, you see it's replacing basically the analyze parameter to upgrade, and the rest is pretty much the same, and that will um, start giving you information on how it will start upgrading your solution. Now, something that you need to know is that personally, I for my specific scenario, I didn't find it really helpful because the way I have my solutions implemented, it turned out that a manual upgrading process was actually faster than using the Upgrade Assistant tool, because the Upgrade Assistant tool was actually requiring or asking me a lot of manual input processes. Basically, choose one of these steps, right? Select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., something like that, for a lot of steps. So it was actually faster to do it manually myself by upgrading the solution. Now, something that you need to be careful about is that the tool will actually give you a better idea of things that needs to be updated, because uh, it probably has way more knowledge of the framework, right? But in my specific scenario, I have already done the migration in multiple projects with the same architecture. So for my specific situation, it's not a big deal. So things that you need to do, for example, if you are going to do manual process, basically you open the solution, you make sure that you have a backup usually, or the recommended way is using source control, right? GitHub, Subversion, Azure DevOps, etc. Bitbucket, any other, right? And then you go project by project, you go to the properties, right? And you change the framework to .NET 7.0. The other thing that you need to do is after you do that, you go to the dependencies, manage NuGet packages, and you update the packages in here, right? And you do that for each single project. Now, in the case of MAUI, you can open this and you will be able to change um, when you see that. However, it's actually easier to just open the project file and modify this from 6 to 0. Of course, you need to remember that you need to modify all of them, right? The ones for the mobile frameworks and the ones for Windows, right? So you see that here it actually has 7. And yeah, I closed that by mistake. Okay, now the other thing that you need to do, of course, is if you have any things like GitHub Actions, you actually need to open all of those files and change the .NET Core version, or wherever you have the version specified in your GitHub action, you will actually need to change that. And in the case of the MAUI build, when you have the publish, you will usually have the target being specified as a parameter in here. So you actually need to modify that too, as you modified in the um, project file target frameworks, right? So you can see that in here, this is the one for Android. I also modified this one, right? So this project is already modified. Now this is Blazor, and or some of the projects are Blazor, right? And these projects are using authentication. In .NET 7, they modified or improved or facilitated actually the way in which you do certain authentication stuff in Blazor. So there are things that are not needed anymore. So you see that when I compile my application, I am getting this error indicating that the sign out session state manager is already obsolete in the shared login display Blazor page. So I'll go to my client project, to the share folder, to the login display, and I know that this is the line that I don't need anymore. And that is because the navigation manager already has a navigate to log out method. The other thing is that this one was asynchronous and it required me to do an async task. However, now I don't have anything async in this method, so I need to modify this. Let's just be or make sure how this is being called. And this is being called without any lambda, so it's directly, and I don't need to modify this in that specific scenario. Now we will go to other places. Of course, in here I need to get rid of the inject because I don't need it anymore, right? There are other places where I know this is happening. Okay, in this specific case, it's giving me an error because the default scope could be nullable, right? And I have my project marking all of warnings as errors. In this case, I know that it's always going to be okay, so I'll just do this, which is not the best practice, right? You can just verify the um, if that is null, right? And if that is null, throw an exception or warning or something like that, right? But in this case, just for fixing the compilation issues, I prefer to do that easily. That will actually probably throw an exception anyway, and will make it also easy to find the errors. Now there was another error in here, yeah, in the main layout. The main layout is also using the sign out session state manager. So we remove this from here. We change this to log out. Okay, this navigation manager navigate to there is compilation error somewhere else. Let's see. Edit here. Okay. I need to modify some of this. Let's just recompile it and fix the errors. So things that need to do is remove this sign out manager in here, modify this to the logout name, and then that will actually make me or force me to remove the async task from the method and convert it to a void, and that will actually force me to remove the asynchronous call in here, right? So we wait a little bit for that to give me the errors, right? And we'll go and fix it in a second. So let's see. Okay, I'll just change it. Void. Okay. Now remove this. In here, I'll remove that, and I'll remove that. Okay. Let's see. There is something else failing somewhere that I haven't seen, and it's causing me errors in here. So not this, not this, not this. When something like that happens, one of the things that you can do is, of course, you will see the errors in here, but there are, okay. It seems, am I missing? No. Okay, when that happens, things that you can do is start that from scratch. I'm not exactly sure what actually happened in there, but I'll just um, start with that project again. So that is actually one of the reasons why it is recommended you use source control. It actually facilitates go back to the previous state of the project and start that from scratch in case you find anything weird. I know that's probably an error I didn't easily see. So basically the things that we need to do. Okay, need to remove the sign out session, need to remove this, need to convert this to navigate to logout, and then I need to convert this to avoid method. That will actually make me or force me to remove the asynchronous call in here, and that makes me have to remove um, the await and the async, right? Okay, that was in the main layout. The other thing that we need to do is we need to go to this page and do the same. So we basically remove the sign out manager call from there, use the logout method, convert that to avoid, and remove the um, injected service or injected navigation manager from there. So I'll just compile this application or this project alone and see if there is anything still requiring to be changed. Yeah, this one is what I had forgotten to change. Rebuild. And I believe that will be it for this specific project. Okay, great. So now we'll go and compile or rebuild the server project, which actually has references to all of the Blazor WebAssembly project, because the Blazor WebAssembly project was actually created as a Blazor WebAssembly project with a .NET Core hosted API. So this server project actually has a reference to the client project. Now that one compile, and now we need to make sure that the um, MAUI project compiles too. So we change the startup project. I'll change this to Windows machine, and I'll rebuild this project. So while that reveals, I'll go a second. Okay, let's see. That's building. Is it building? Huh. Let's try again. I believe it was already building. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, it's building all of the projects in there. Let's see if we get any weird error. And if not, we are ready to commit this to the GitHub repository. And then after that, we will be checking the GitHub actions. So it seems I'm only getting warnings, and a lot of those I believe are um, because, yeah, for the MAUI project I didn't set it as treat warnings as errors, because the MAUI default application was actually always throwing warnings as far as I remember. So there were things out of my control in there. Okay, So stage that, upgrading to .NET 7, right? So I'll make sure that I am pushing all of the changes. These are all of the changes for the Fair Play condos. Um, for the Fair Play condos solution, and then in GitHub, in a couple of seconds or minutes, actually already, we are seeing the build actions taking place, and we see the build for the MAUI Windows, the build for the MAUI Android, and the build for the web app, right? Now, if there is any error in the builds, we will see an X in there. Otherwise, eventually we will see the check in here. That's basically one of the ways in which, or the two known ways currently, or two ways I know, in that you can currently upgrade to .NET 7. Yeah, it was somewhat manual process, but yeah, I guarantee that in my specific case, the manual process was actually way faster than accepting and doing a lot of manual input in the upgrade assistant. However, I'm pretty sure that there are things that I may have missed when upgrading that the assistant may have actually uh, letting me know about. So I believe you can do either. And if you do it manually, it might also be a good idea to see what the upgrade assistant does after you have your um, project already upgraded. It may give you information on things that you want to change. Thank you very much and have a great day.